The salt spray bit at Eleanor's cheeks, a cold promise of the battle to come. Her father, Thomas, a burly master mariner from Kent, stood beside her on the deck of the Sea Serpent, his gaze fixed on the vast, dark expanse of the English Channel. It was August, 1588. They say they number over 130 ships. Daughter, Thomas rumbled, his voice rough against the wind. The Grand Armada. Philip of Spain means to break us. Eleanor, barely 20, clutched the rough wool of her tunic. But we are English, father, and Queen Elizabeth. I, our queen, he interrupted, a faint smile touching his weathered lips. She has the heart of a lioness, our Bess. I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too. He mimicked the Queen's stirring address at Tilbury, her words still echoing in the hearts of every sailor. A young deckhand, barely a boy named John, scurried past, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. Master Thomas, the Revenge is signaling. They've sighted the vanguard. Thomas gripped Eleanor's shoulder. Stay low, girl, and pray, not for our lives, but for England. The first engagement was a chaotic dance. The English ships, smaller and more nimble, darted around the cumbersome Spanish galleons. The Spanish, accustomed to grappling and boarding, found themselves frustrated by the English tactics of firing broadsides and then retreating. One afternoon, as the sun beat down relentlessly, a Spanish galleon, the San Martin, veered too close. Its towering stern castle loomed over the Sea Serpent, casting a long shadow. Eleanor, who had been helping to load shot, saw a Spanish musketeer take aim from the high deck. She cried out a warning to her father, who was at the helm. Father, to your left. Thomas reacted instantly, yanking the tiller. The Sea Serpent lurched, narrowly avoiding a volley of musket fire that splintered the mast beside them. A few moments later, an English cannonball slammed into the San Martin's rigging, sending wood and rope showering down. The Spanish ship, damaged, slowly veered away. Quick thinking, daughter, Thomas shouted over the din, a rare grin breaking through his grim facade. Your eyes are sharper than any lookouts. Eleanor felt a surge of pride, a small victory in the midst of the vast conflict. The next few days were a blur of cannon fire and acrid smoke. Sir Francis Drake's Revenge was a whirlwind, weaving through the Spanish crescent formation, its guns blazing. One evening, as twilight painted the horizon in hues of bruised purple, Eleanor found herself serving watered ale to the weary gun crews. Robert, a grizzled old seaman with a missing tooth, accepted his mug with a grunt of thanks. They're not built for this, these Spanish tubs, Robert rasped, gesturing with his head towards the distant, beleaguered armada. Too tall, too slow, like castles trying to dance. But they have so many men, Eleanor said, remembering the daunting size of the Spanish fleet. Robert chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. Aye, but quantity don't make quality. We've got the wind, girl, and we've got something they don't, desperation. We're fighting for our homes, our queen. They're fighting for a king who sits safe in his palace. The final blow came in the dead of night, off Gravelines. The English, under the brilliant command of Lord Howard of Effingham, unleashed fireships into the Spanish fleet. The sight was terrifyingly magnificent. Hulks of burning were drifting towards the tightly packed Spanish ships, sowing panic and chaos. Eleanor watched from the stern, her heart pounding. The Spanish formation shattered, their discipline evaporating in the face of the inferno. The wind, which had seemed to favor Spain for so long, now turned, driving them northwards, away from their invasion objective, towards the treacherous shoals and storms of the Scottish and Irish coasts. Days later, battered but triumphant, the Sea Serpent limped back to Dover. Thomas, his face streaked with grime and exhaustion, pulled Eleanor into a tight embrace. "We did it, daughter," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "By God's grace, we did it. England is safe." Eleanor looked out at the familiar white cliffs, now bathed in the gentle morning light. The Channel, once a menacing stage for invasion, was now a pathway to opportunity. She knew then that something fundamental had shifted. England, a small island nation, had stood against the mightiest empire in the world and prevailed. The sea, which had always been a barrier, was now truly her nation's domain. The age of England, the age of exploration and empire, had truly begun.